I could smell the cinnamon before I even opened the door. My sister Emma always went overboard with the fall candles, and today was no exception. The warmth hit me as I stepped into her house, my boots leaving wet prints on the hardwood. November rain in Seattle had a way of soaking through everything. I carried the apple pie I'd made that morning, still warm in my hands. Emma's Thanksgiving potluck, the one tradition our family actually kept after Dad passed. I could hear voices from the kitchen, laughter that stopped just a fraction too quickly when I appeared in the doorway. "There she is," Emma said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "We were just talking about you." My mother stood by the sink, drying her hands on a towel patterned with turkeys. My Aunt Linda sat at the kitchen island, her phone face down on the marble countertop. They all looked at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. Not hostile, just expectant. "Good things, I hope," I said, setting the pie on the counter. "Always," my mother replied, but something in her tone felt rehearsed. I excused myself to use the bathroom, but Emma's guest bathroom was occupied. "Use the one upstairs," she called out. "Second door on the right." The stairs creaked under my feet. As I reached the top, I heard my name again, this time from the kitchen below, their voices carrying up through the old house's ventilation. I froze, my hand on the banister. "I'm just saying, someone needs to talk to her about it." That was Aunt Linda. "She's 32, for God's sake." "It's not our business," Emma said, but her voice lacked conviction. "It becomes our business when she shows up to every family event looking like she just crawled out from under a car." My mother's words were sharp, matter of fact. "Do you know what Diane from church said to me last week?" She asked if my daughter was still playing mechanic. Playing mechanic. The words hung in the air like smoke. "She owns the shop, Mom," Emma said quietly. "She's not playing anything. That's not the point." My mother's voice rose slightly. "The point is, she could be doing something respectable. She had a business degree. She could work in an office, wear normal clothes, meet normal people. Instead, she's under cars all day with grease under her fingernails." "And what about Thanksgiving?" Aunt Linda added. "Every year, she shows up in those work boots and jeans. It's embarrassing. This year especially, Tom's family is coming. His parents, his sister. What are they going to think?" Tom, Emma's fiancé. I'd met him twice, maybe 3 times. Nice enough guy, worked in finance. "I have an idea," Aunt Linda continued, her voice taking on a conspiratorial tone. "What if we do a little intervention? Nothing harsh. Just gently suggest that maybe she should think about her presentation. We could frame it as caring about her future, wanting her to meet someone nice." "An intervention?" Emma sounded uncertain. "Not a formal one. Just maybe after dinner we all sit down with her. Tell her we love her, but we're worried, that she's wasting her potential, that she's not going to find a good man smelling like motor oil." The water ran in the sink. I imagined my mother rinsing something, her mouth pressed into that thin line she made when she was thinking. "She did seem interested when I mentioned that Marcus would be here," my mother said slowly. "Linda's colleague's son, the one who works at Microsoft." "See?" Aunt Linda's voice brightened. "Perfect. We introduce them, let them talk. Then later we have our little chat, show her what she could have if she just tried a little harder." "I don't know," Emma said. "She might get upset." "She'll get over it," my mother replied. "Sometimes people need to hear hard truths. We're her family. If we don't tell her, who will?" I stood there at the top of the stairs, the warmth from downstairs suddenly feeling suffocating. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't angry, not yet. I felt something else. Something cold and clear, like ice water in my veins. I walked back downstairs, each step deliberate. When I entered the kitchen, I was smiling. "Everything okay?" Emma asked. "Perfect," I said. "Hey, do you mind if I make a quick call?" "Shop stuff." "Sure, use the den." I closed myself in Emma's den, surrounded by her carefully arranged bookshelves and framed photos of family vacations I'd been too busy to attend. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I needed. "Jordan?" I said when he answered. "It's me. I need a favor." Jordan had been my best friend since high school, the kind of friend who asked no questions when you needed something. He was also a photographer who specialized in automotive journalism. "What kind of favor?" he asked. Remember those photos you took of my shop? The feature for that magazine? The ones of you working? Yeah, I've got the whole set. Why? Can you send me the best ones? High resolution, and I need them by tomorrow morning. Sure, but what's this about? I'll tell you later. Also, do you still have connections at Seattle Business Review? There was a pause. You're not going to do something crazy, are you? Define crazy. He laughed. I'll send the photos. And yes, I know the editor. What do you need? Just an introduction. I've got a story they might want. After I hung up, I made 2 more calls, one to my lawyer, Sarah, one to my accountant, David, who'd been telling me for years that I should do more networking. When I returned to the kitchen, Marcus had arrived, tall, polo shirt, eager smile. My mother introduced us with a brightness that felt theatrical. Marcus works in tech, she said, as if this explained everything important about him. Nice to meet you, I said, shaking his hand. I could feel the grease still embedded in my cuticles, even though I'd scrubbed them raw this morning. Dinner was exactly as I'd expected. Turkey, stuffing, the usual small talk. Tom's family had arrived, his parents polished and proper, his sister asking about my little garage business. Marcus sat next to me, asking polite questions about my work that I could tell he wasn't really interested in. My mother kept steering the conversation toward his job, his accomplishments, his marathon training. I smiled through all of it, ate my food, complimented Emma's cooking. Inside, I was planning. After dinner, as I helped clear plates, Aunt Linda touched my arm. Sweetheart, we were hoping we could all chat for a bit, just family. Of course, I said. I actually have something I wanted to talk to you all about too. We gathered in Emma's living room. Me on one couch, Mom and Aunt Linda on the other, Emma perched on the arm of a chair, looking uncomfortable. The gas fireplace flickered between us. My mother started. Honey, we wanted to talk to you because we care about you. We're worried, Aunt Linda added. I let them continue, watched as they laid out their concerns, their suggestions, their ideas for my future. The word potential came up a lot. So did presentation and opportunities and settling down. When they finished, there was silence. They looked at me expectantly, waiting for me to break down or defend myself or promise to change. Instead, I pulled out my phone. I appreciate your concern, I said calmly. I really do. But I think there's been a misunderstanding about what I actually do. I opened my photos and turned the screen toward them. Jordan's photographs. Me in my shop, surrounded by tools and machinery. But these weren't candid shots. These were professional, lit perfectly, composed like art. Me, focused, competent, in my element. This is from the feature that ran in Automotive Excellence last year, I said. They called my shop one of the most innovative in the Pacific Northwest. I swiped to the next photo, a screenshot of an article. This is from Seattle Business Review. They profiled me as one of 30 entrepreneurs under 35 to watch. The article talks about how I grew my shop from a single bay to 6, how I've specialized in European restoration, how I've built a clientele that includes collectors from California to British Columbia. My mother's face had gone very still. I swiped again. These are my yearly revenues. David, my accountant, prepared this summary. I'm not going to share the exact numbers, but I'll just say that I make more than most people with office jobs and normal clothes. Aunt Linda's mouth had opened slightly. And this? I said, showing them one more photo, is from the training program I started. I teach young women automotive repair and shop management. We've had 15 graduates in 2 years. 12 of them now own their own businesses. I put my phone down and looked at each of them in turn. I don't smell like motor oil because I'm failing at life, I said quietly. I smell like it because I work with my hands, building something real, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of every callus, every grease stain, every late night I've spent rebuilding an engine that everyone else said was impossible to save. Emma was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. But here's what hurts, I continued, my voice still steady. It's not that you don't understand my work, it's that you never asked. You never once came to my shop, never asked to see what I do, never wanted to know why I love it. You just decided it was embarrassing. My mother opened her mouth to speak, but I held up my hand. And the intervention idea? Setting me up with Marcus? Acting like I'm some project that needs fixing? I stood up. That's not love. That's not concern. That's you deciding that your embarrassment matters more than my happiness. That's not fair, my mother said, her voice trembling. Isn't it? I looked at her. You told Aunt Linda that I'm wasting my potential, but you never asked what I consider my potential. You never asked what success looks like to me. I walked to the front door and put on my coat. Emma followed me. Wait, she said. Don't leave like this. I'm not angry, Em. I'm just done pretending that this is okay. We do care about you, she whispered. I know you think you do. But caring about someone means accepting them, not trying to rebuild them into what you think they should be. I drove home through the rain, my windshield wipers beating a steady rhythm. My phone buzzed repeatedly. Mom, Aunt Linda, text messages that I didn't read. The next morning, I met Jordan for coffee. So, he said, sliding into the booth across from me, are you going to tell me what this is about? I told him everything. The overheard conversation, the intervention, my quiet exit. He listened without interrupting, his coffee growing cold between his hands. What do you need from me? He asked when I finished. I'm going to write something, a piece about family expectations, about being a woman in a male-dominated field, about the difference between concern and control. And I want it to be accompanied by your photographs. The real ones, the ones that show what I actually do. For Seattle Business Review? For wherever we'll publish it, but yes, I'm starting there. He grinned. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. I spent the next week writing. Not angry words, but honest ones. I wrote about growing up loving cars, about my father teaching me to change oil in our driveway, about the moment I realized I could turn that love into a life. I wrote about the customers who trusted me with their most prized possessions, about the women I'd trained who sent me photos of their own shops now. And I wrote about Thanksgiving, about overhearing my family plan to fix something that wasn't broken. Sarah, my lawyer, reviewed it. David, my accountant, confirmed the business details. Jordan sent over a portfolio of photos that took my breath away. I sent it all to the editor at Seattle Business Review. 3 days later, she called me. This is powerful, she said. We want to run it. Front page of our next issue, online and print. Are you sure? I asked. It's pretty personal. That's exactly why we want it. Every woman who's ever been told she's in the wrong field is going to see herself in this. Can we photograph you at your shop for the cover? The article went live 2 weeks before Christmas. Within hours, it was being shared across social media. By the next morning, it had been picked up by 3 national outlets. My phone was flooded with messages from other women telling me their stories. And then the messages from my family started coming through. Emma first, a long text apologizing, saying she hadn't understood. Then Aunt Linda, shorter, more defensive, but with an apology buried in there. My mother didn't text. She called. I let it ring through to voicemail the first time, and the second. On the third call, I answered. I read the article, she said. No greeting, no preamble. Okay, I replied. You made us sound terrible. I told the truth. There was a long silence on the line. I could hear her breathing, the sound of traffic in the background. Your father would be proud of you, she said finally, her voice breaking. The shop, the teaching, all of it. He would be so proud. I closed my eyes, surprised by the tears that came. Then why couldn't you be? I asked. I don't know, she whispered. I thought I was protecting you. I thought I was helping you avoid a hard life. It is a hard life, Mom, but it's my life, and it's a good one. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. We talked for an hour, really talked, maybe for the first time in years. She told me about her own mother, who'd pushed her toward teaching when she'd wanted to be a nurse, about the expectations she'd grown up with. I thought I was being progressive, she said, getting you that business degree. But then when you went back to cars, I couldn't understand it. You never asked, I said gently. I know that now. Christmas came. Emma called to ask if I'd come to her house again. I told her I needed space. She understood. Instead, I spent Christmas at my shop, not working, just being there. I made hot chocolate and sat in my office, looking at the photos Jordan had taken, me with a wrench in my hand, safety glasses pushed up on my forehead, completely focused. That was the photo Seattle Business Review had chosen for their cover. I looked happy in it. I looked like myself, My phone buzzed. A text from Emma, a photo of her holding a socket wrench. "Baby steps," the caption read. "Teach me?" I smiled and typed back, "Anytime." Another message came through. The editor at Seattle Business Review wanted to do a follow-up piece about the women who'd reached out after the article. "Would you be interested in writing it?" she asked. I looked around my office, at the certifications on the wall, at the photos of completed projects, at the thank you cards from customers, at the window that looked out onto the shop floor. I typed my response, yes, I'd be honored. Outside, snow was starting to fall. I locked up the shop and walked to my truck. My mother had sent one more text. Just 3 words, "Come for coffee." I stood there in the parking lot, watching my breath fog in the cold air. I thought about Thanksgiving, about the conversation I'd overheard, about the gift I'd given myself, the gift of refusing to shrink. I typed back, "Saturday morning. My shop. I want to show you something." She responded immediately, "I'll be there." Saturday morning came cold and bright. My mother arrived at 9, looking up at the sign I'd had made 2 years ago. I gave her the tour I'd never given her before, showed her each bay, explained what we were working on. In the last bay, I showed her my current project, a 1,965 Alfa Romeo Spider, cherry red, that had been my father's dream car. "I bought it at auction," I said. "Dad and I used to talk about restoring one together." My mother's hand went to her mouth. "He would have loved this." "I know." We stood there together, and for the first time in years, the silence between us felt comfortable. "I'm proud of you," she said finally. "I should have said it years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of you." I turned to her, saw tears in her eyes. "Thank you," I said. "That means more than you know." She reached out and took my hand. "Teach me something," she said, "about what you do. I want to understand." So I did. I showed her how to check oil, how to identify engine components. She got grease on her hands, and instead of wiping it off, she looked at it with wonder. "I see it now," she said. "Why you love this." When she left, she hugged me tight, not caring about the oil on my shirt. I spent the rest of December building the Alfa Romeo piece by piece, documenting every step. Jordan came by twice a week to photograph the progress, not for any magazine this time, but because he wanted to. The follow-up article came out in mid-January, titled, "The Mechanic Effect: How One Woman's Story Sparked a Movement." It featured interviews with 12 women in trades who'd reached out after my piece welders, electricians, plumbers, construction workers. My mother called when she read it. "That could have been us," she said quietly. 2 years of not talking. "If you hadn't written that first piece," "But you did read it," I said. "That's what matters." She came to the shop every Saturday after that. At first, she just watched, asking questions. Then one morning in February, she asked if she could help. I handed her a wrench and showed her how to remove a battery terminal. When it came free, she looked up at me with wonder. "I did it," she said. "You did." Emma started coming too, bringing Tom sometimes. The 3 of us spent a Sunday afternoon changing the oil in Emma's car while Mom watched and took photos on her phone. "Who are you sending those to?" I asked. "Everyone," she said with a smile. "Diane, from church. My book club. Your Aunt Linda." By March, the Alfa Romeo was nearly finished. On the first warm Saturday in April, I took my mother for a drive in it. We headed up the coast highway, windows down, the engine singing. When we got back, she turned to me. "Your father would have loved this moment," she said. "I wish he could have seen it." "He can," she said. "Somehow I think he can." I locked up that evening feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Not vindication or pride, though those were there too, just peace. The simple, quiet peace of being exactly who I was supposed to be, surrounded by people who finally saw me clearly. And for the first time, I didn't need anyone's permission to call it enough.